This is Will McCauley with cEntellect. I'm here to review our week's proprietary research and analysis piece on the crude oil markets. This week we're looking at OPEC, its production share of world production, and what that means for both crude stocks globally and Brent crude prices. OPEC's been in the market, the news a lot this week about what they're going to do at their semi-annual meeting. This is really just to get a sense of what their production changes mean from both a volumetric and a price perspective in the world markets. So first, let's just talk about OPEC a little bit. OPEC, as many people know, 14 member countries, Saudi Arabia by far the largest producing country in OPEC. The other nations are from the Middle East, Africa, and South America. There have been some conversations about OPEC potentially expanding to 24 members, but for now we're going to stick with the traditional definition of OPEC being these 14 producing countries. The next thing we're going to look at is how OPEC's market share has truly changed over time. The chart I'm showing here is the last 5.5 years, and you can see that OPEC's production market share has changed a little bit, is averaging around 33% global market share over the 5.5-year period. Again, that's probably lower than most people think. People think they're probably closer to the high 40s or even 50% of the world production. So that's just setting the base for what OPEC is and what they mean to the market. What we next did is we looked at two different factors that could be impacted by OPEC's market share. The first is world crude stocks, and the second is Brent crude price. Obviously, increased production should impact both stocks and price, and same thing, decreased production should impact both stocks and price. What we found is that while there is some correlation and relationship to OPEC's market share and these two factors, the relationships are really not that strong and they're not that explanatory. The first thing we're looking at is the stocks. You can see it looks like it's a relatively tight relationship. However, the R squared on the regression is only 27%. So there's a lot more things going on there explaining changes in stocks than what OPEC is doing from a production standpoint. However, if all else is held equal, all non-OPEC countries do not change their production and OPEC increases its share by 1%, which would require about 1.5 million barrels per day of increased production, you could potentially see a 63 million barrel worldwide stock increase. Again, that is what the relationship says, although it's a weak relationship. The second factor we looked at was how OPEC's production market share impacts Brent prices. So again, you can see a chart here. This chart is even less explained, the price is even less explained by OPEC's market share. Again, R squared is 13%. There's a lot more going on in the world crude markets than just what OPEC is doing from a production standpoint. However, the relationship is, again, if all else is held equal and OPEC increases its market share by 1%, should expect to see about a $13 per barrel price decrease in Brent, all else being held equal. So I think the takeaways here from this work is that OPEC isn't as big as people think it is from a production standpoint. While OPEC's market share does impact crude stocks and crude prices, it's not as significant as most people think. The relationships are fairly weak. What OPEC talks about from a production standpoint is really more rhetoric than it is than reality and what it is doing in the global world markets. I think there's much bigger factors impacting the world markets that we've talked about, US dollar being a significant one. A 1% increase in US dollar decreases world crude prices about $2.75. So the dollar has been appreciating, therefore we still remain bearish from our crude price forecast. For more detail on the full research and analysis report, please visit us at cEntellect.com. Thank you.